I have learned that strength comes from choosing to do what's right, especially when it's difficult. Hardship makes us stronger so that tackling the next hardship is easier. Even at times when strength is a gift or a skill, we still have to choose to use it. But strength is not infinite. Eventually, we'll meet our match and fall. That's when we need the love of someone we trust to support us. And if we don't have that, things get pretty ugly. I was raised in the rural outskirts of Manhattan with my parents and my older brother Buck Wild. It was a really good life. I spent most of my childhood being overweight and socially awkward, and it didn't help that I wasn't very good at school either. But I had a gigantic imagination and loved writing stories about action, adventure, or whatever I thought was funny. Eventually, I started taking lessons and became fascinated with the methods of being creative. It wasn't long before I realized that a life of creativity was the life that I wanted. Eventually, I found out that I loved acting as well, but my looks and my quirkiness made me a target for bullying. I didn't understand why, and I hated it. To this day, I thank Buck Wild for showing me that in order to make my life better, I had to first better myself. This meant getting in shape, being conscious of myself and those around me, and defending myself. I gained an appreciation for brutal honesty through Buck Wild telling me about what aspects of my personality I needed to work on in order to get a better social life. I soon learned how to view myself objectively and keep my own quirks in check. My father then took me to Master Swift Sword's fencing school in Manhattan for exercise. I loved the sport's creative potential. I relished learning about the body and how to make it stronger. However, that knowledge made me feel like sparring was too easy. Celestia forbid I ever had to use what I was learning. Wouldn't a real fight be harder than what sparring was like? My fears came true when one day I snapped back at a bully. The mild fighting reflexes and basic knowledge of anatomy that I got from fencing was the slim difference between us that made me victorious. I hated it, but he left me alone after that. Unfortunately, it was then that I realized that someone would stop picking on me if there were immediate consequences. I got in a lot of fights my teenage years. Looking back, not all of them were necessary, and I didn't enjoy any of them. But it was worth it to get moments of peace so I could work on my hobbies. Eventually, I started making friends, one of which was Spirit Flight, who had a lot of other friends that struck me as bad news. But she didn't have much of a family and seemed happy with them, so I didn't say anything. I started learning to trust my instincts when she turned down a quote-unquote friend who asked her out, and he took his anger out on her when she denied him. I almost lost her to the ensuing sadness, and I would have rather been in 1,000 more fights than see a friend in that much pain. But I stayed strong, helped her as best as I could, and promised to never hold my tongue again in hopes that I could prevent this in the future. Thank goodness she eventually found a stallion who treated her right and ran off with him. And after that, I could recognize the signs of when someone was in need of friendship. I always pursued those in need so I could try to help ease their pain, whatever it was. I threw myself at my training harder than ever and learned everything I could about what my friends were going through so I would be able to help them. Ultimately, the skills I got from writing helped me analyze the situations and those involved. Then, the experiences I got from solving real-world problems improved my writing. Though writing and acting were still large parts of my life, I needed to get stronger in order to be the friend that I wanted to be. Through that determination and hard work, I was eventually on par with Master Swift's sword, but I still didn't feel strong enough. Around the time that Princess Luna came back from the moon, I quit the drama club so I could take up my first job on a farm in my hometown. The bits I earned from that helped me supplement my training at a Wing Chun school in Manhattan. Fencing was a fascination from my childhood and a good start in my quest for strength, but Wing Chun was just what I needed in order to get stronger. It was taught by Master West Tower, a former Royal Guard drill sergeant who made sure that each class pushed you past your limits. And though I was on par with Master Swift's sword, I couldn't even hold a candle to Master West Tower's lowest ranks. Eventually, Master West saw my dedication and offered me my second job of teaching the Foals class for him. It was my favorite job even to this day, The combination of creativity, knowledge, fitness, and watching the students improve was extremely fulfilling, especially when I imagined them using these skills to avoid many of the conflicts that I had been unable to avoid. I was a brutal teacher, and Master West had to ask me to dial it down in order to retain the class size. I didn't want to at first because I felt it was necessary for the students to be truly prepared for the challenges that lie ahead. But eventually, I found a happy medium, and those who stayed got stronger still. But even though I was helping the foals, I was starting to lose my friends. I noticed a pattern that once they had gotten better and the issues that I had been trying to help them with had been resolved, they would drift out of touch with me. I didn't know why, but I wasn't needed anymore, and that hurt, to say the least. I figured that I needed a fresh start and that I wanted to combine all of my favorite hobbies into a career in theater, so I moved to Canterlot to attend the best theater school in Equestria. It was amazing. I learned how to improve my acting and my writing. I learned how to direct, how to sing, how to build, light, and strike a set, and eventually, I became the stunt choreographer for most of the plays that I was a part of. I also met Delilah. We started out as friends and held that for a long time, and we had everything in common and confided everything within each other. Eventually, affection began to grow between us, and our friendship turned into something much more. It was great. My future in Canterlot's theater business looked promising. I was holding down jobs as the school's assistant librarian and a freelance photographer. I was healthy, loved, and didn't need to fight anyone. I thought it would last forever. Within a single moon, it was all pulled out, one by one, like feathers from my wings. The library made budget cuts and let me go. Photography business slowed to a crawl, and Delilah left me with hardly an explanation. Money got tight, but I wasn't stupid. I had backup plans. I tried to find another job as well as start more business for myself, but long story short, I needed a lot of help that I couldn't get. Beyond that, I was so lonely that all of my passions had lost their flavor from having no one to share them with. Finally, I broke down and vented to one of my last friends in Canterlot, a fellow Manhattan race stallion by the name of Stryker. We weren't terribly close, but his wife was friends with Delilah. All of this, and I still don't know what went wrong between Delilah and I.
Really?
What's that supposed to mean?
Look, dude, I'm really sure you don't want to hear this. It's bad.
I have been scrambling trying to get my life back together so I can avoid ending up on the street, all the while tearing myself up, trying to figure out what happened so I can avoid making the same mistake again in the future. Stryker, I need to know.
Alright, man. Brace yourself.
Part of me wished that Stryker had told me when he found out. Part of me wished that it wasn't true to begin with. During our friendship, when we confided in each other, Delilah thought my pursuit of strength was rooted in a bad self-image. In truth, she didn't like anything about who I was. She only saw me as violent and thought that she could fix me by getting close. She stayed around for so long because I had treated her better than anyone else she had been with, and left when she realized that I was seriously hoping we could stay together. Every memory I had of our time together was instantly tainted with the knowledge of her insincerity. But then, my life made sense on a completely different level. Helping those I cared about involved showing them my worst aspects. Every time I had to argue to help. Every time I had to push them further than they wanted to go. Every time I had to fight for them. Every time I had to fight them, I scared them. So, they left once their problems were solved. Then the only girl who ever loved me did so out of pity. This was all simply who I was, so it doesn't matter how strong I am. If the only way I can help drives others away, then I'm not compatible for true friendship. It was just past the nightmare night after the changelings invaded Canterlot. I lost trust in everyone around me and hadn't talked to anyone for months. But I couldn't stand being in my apartment anymore, so I went for a walk in the afternoon, and didn't stop until I cracked under the weight of my thoughts in the snowy forest atop Canterlot Mountain. I'm not violent. My friends needed help. I only chose to do what it took to help. Why couldn't anyone else make that choice too? It doesn't matter. As long as I'm scary, I'll be alone. I just wanted to be the friend that I wanted to have. I don't know how to change myself anymore. In facing these types of challenges without friendship, things can get ugly. I saw no alternative but to give up being myself, and I broke down. Eventually, my limbs were hanging limp, and all I could do was hover, but I continued to vent my frustration, and vent, until I couldn't vent anymore. I didn't mean to go this far, but my strength was gone, and so I succumbed to what I had been fighting to save my friends from. I wasn't supposed to wake up. I didn't think I was going to wake up, but when I did, I immediately wished that I hadn't. Every part of me was sore, especially my back and wings. I felt light, sick, dirty, and my vision was blurry. Painfully, I tried to stand, but as soon as my weight pressed over my hooves, pain shot through me and I fell over.
Oh my gosh, you're awake. How do you feel?
I'm hungry, in pain, and need to bathe. What happened?
A pony named Northwind found you passed out in the snow of Canterlot Mountain. You've been unconscious for nearly 3 days. Where do you hurt the most?
My wings.
Sir? Please stay calm, but I need you to look to your right.
I had thought all hope was lost before. Now, I really wished I hadn't woken up.
I'm so sorry. We tried our best, but they were frostbitten to the bone by the time you were brought in. At least we saved your legs. What happened out there?
I had an accident while flying. They took care of me until I could walk on my own again. I went in with frostbitten wings, a concussion, 3 fractured cannons, front ankles sprained and broken, misaligned withers, and contusions on my left flank. I walked out with a limp, impaired depth perception, and phantom pains keeping me up at night. The budget was tight, but I bought a nice-looking, second-hand blazer to cover my scars. Then, I noticed my mane was thinning out, so I preemptively cut it short. It matches my new look better anyway. The only thing left to do was to try and start again. However, I had no idea how. Normally, I'd have planned that out already, but I hadn't exactly been in a good mindset these last few months. During that time, I had started reading play reviews in the local newspaper. They were interesting, but I was familiar with a lot of the works that the writers were talking about, and found myself disagreeing with their opinions or methods of analyzing. It was in the same newspaper that I saw the story of how Twilight Sparkle and a baby dragon stopped the second coming of King Sombra. That brought me to a realization. I could no longer pursue my original career path. I had no friends, and didn't feel like I could turn to my family, who would certainly see me as a failure. I could barely afford food, and my health was decreasing rapidly. I didn't think I was going to last much longer, but that doesn't mean that I should stop trying to do good in the world. I might have crippled myself, and no longer had a taste for telling stories, but I could still think, and I could still write. So maybe I could start an editorial of my own and explain the aspects of these stories that others had missed. Perhaps I can be both an example of that strength, as well as an example of what happens when we lose that strength. Perhaps, through this, I can encourage others to make the right choice, and be, to each other, the friend that I had always wanted, as well as the friend that I had always wanted to be.
Excuse me, are you the author of the Pony Debates column?
I am. What can I do for you?
I wanted to tell you that I think your articles are interesting, but it could use some improvement.
Well, I'm always about improvement. Let's talk and see if we can figure it out. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but in the end, Despite losing almost everything that I was, I'm still Brawny. Greetings everyone. I'd like to thank you all for watching, as well as give shoutouts to all of those who have helped me along on this project. My old friend Swiftyuki contributed a ton to this project. She's helped me immensely, not just here, but also getting my start in making videos to begin with. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now. So be sure to check her out on DeviantArt and her awesome speed paints on YouTube, and maybe you can learn a thing or two from her as well. Dillon has saved my hide on multiple occasions with his skill in visual effects and provided the puppets used in this video. Check out his podcast or commission him if you need some help on a video yourself. Longtime fan of my work, Anna Madsen put in a lot of effort to make her contributions. We learned a lot about each other while working through a language barrier to make this project a reality. She's got some amazing work on DeviantArt and some interesting My Little Pony headcanon videos on YouTube. Countess Marie Rose has created great artwork for a few analysts, myself included, in between trying her own hand at the game of headcanon videos and reviews. Her abilities shine through in this video as well, and I highly recommend her other works on both DeviantArt and YouTube. Halfling Pony went above and beyond the challenge of his slides by creating layers for an awesome effect. His DeviantArt has some great artwork and comics for My Little Pony, Lord of the Rings, Pokemon, and nature as well. An up-and-coming commentator by the name of Capslock came on board to provide some vector art, and I, in turn, got sucked into his new show Ship It or Skip It. Be sure to check that out. We also had contributions from talented artists and Patreon supporters such as Happy Red Brony, Hannah Purcell, and Angela Secrest. I'm very sorry if I've mispronounced anyone's name. All of these artists, I'm sure, would appreciate your viewership and thanks as much as I have appreciated your viewership and thanks over these last couple of years. The views, comments, help, and support I get from all of you makes it all worth the effort. Let's all keep doing our best, and we'll all be able to keep this going for a long time. Have a great day, and I look forward to hearing from all of you soon.